Hi guys, my name is Noni Matikela. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So today I want us to talk about Sibiya, Muzi Sibiya, accused number one in the Senzo Meyiwa case. Guys, do you remember that there was an interview that was done by Sibiya's family back at Emahlabathini? Linda Mnisi was the one that did that interview. It's still on the internet, where his father, his mother, his wife were interviewed. And also, there is something that you can find about the same scenario or same discussion there by the Senzo Meyiwa football star, something on Netflix. There is a documentary that was done. Yes, that one. You can check that there, and then you will come, and when you watch this video, go after watching this video, go and check Netflix, go and check YouTube for that video. It's Muzi's family talking, and there was also the Ntanzi family. Yeah, so then you will be able to understand what I'm trying to say in this video. There are moments in a trial where law collapses, and all that remains is a father's voice breaking. Not a lawyer, not a police officer, not a judge, a father. In the Netflix documentary of the Senzo Meyiwa matter, Muzi Sibiya's father does not argue law. He does not cite cases. He does not posture. He cries. And also on that interview that he did with Linda Mnisi from Newsroom Africa. And all he did, one of the things that father is, he was narrating what happened when they brought Muzi home, the police. He cried. And sometimes truth enters the room exactly like that, with emotion. He tells the camera what happened when his son was brought home by Brigadier Gininda and his team. Yes, he was in a car, in a red Golf, if I'm not mistaken, or a Qashqai, I don't remember. But he was in a car. He was not walking. He was sitting in a car. They did not allow Muzi to get out of the car. The people went to him in the car, the family. He was not okay. He was broken. According to his father's narration, Muzi Sibiya had been beaten badly. His body told the story before his mouth could. Fresh wounds, visible injuries, and most disturbing of all, his arms marked with fresh wounds, fresh cut wounds. The kind you don't get from cooperation, the kind you get from restraint. And then comes the allegation that detonates everything. The father says his son told him he was forced to say the other guys were involved in the Senzo Meyiwa murder. He was forced, not persuaded, not interviewed, forced. And what was the price for this truth? A promise of 300K. That is what his father said. 300K? Yes, I think he said 300K. If I'm not 100K or 300K, if I'm not mistaken. That money was in exchange for making a confession against the other people. And guess who were those people? It was the Buthelezi brothers, because the so-called confession of Muzi Sibiya speaks about the Buthelezi brothers. It was the Buthelezi brothers, guys. No one else, the Buthelezi brothers. If that allegation is true, then this is not policing, this is not investigation, this is manufactured guilty. Because South African law is unambiguous. A confession obtained through assault, coercion, and injustice is legally worthless, not weak, not questionable, worthless. And guess what? The funny part about that is that, not about the confession, the funny part about the names that Muzi was given when he got arrested is that the second person who allegedly did a confession did not get the same names. He was given the names of the people that are on the dock with him right now. Muzi was given Makimbi Buthelezi, was given Marco Buthelezi, because that's what he says. He says that those names came with Gininda. Now, when Kinita speaks, you will realize that when he did his he had names, and then he wanted to paint those names, Makimbi and Marco Buthelezi, as the men of the match, right? And then when that happened, he ends up being the one that, she ends up being the one now that speak about these things. And then when he goes and does his investigation, he finds out from one of the Buthelezi brothers that, no, man, you are trying to put me in a situation that I was not involved in. That time, 2014, October, I was in jail. He gets shocked, and then now he needs to make plan B. I think that is where Gwabini came in. I think that is where Danzi also came in. They make Muzi to phone Gwabini. We hear this now because Gwabini came and said he was phoned by Muzi. It was early June. He was phoned by Muzi, and then Muzi was asking, where are you? When are you coming back from home? And Gwabini was at home. And I want to believe that it was the first week of June. I want to believe so. It was the first week of June. It was winter. It's just that Gwabini does not remember the exact. I want to believe it was the first week of June. That is just me. That was 2020. Because Gwabini, when he tells about his story of arrest, you get shocked. So you got called after. You get called after Muzi was arrested. But now we don't hear about your arrest. We'll talk about that in another video. We don't hear about your arrest, but we have a Bongani Danzi in the midst. You are not there. Nothing is said. But Gwabini told us something about a call. Anyway, I digress. Now, Umuzi, he gets arrested and his father tells a story and he is very sad. And here is the part the state never wants to talk about. When a confession is poisoned, everything that grows from it is poisoned too. Every arrest, every charge, every breakthrough, fruit of the poisonous tree, all of that situation. So when the father cries on camera, he is not just mourning his son's pain, he is unknowingly narrating the possible origin story of the state's entire case. And Ubabu Sbiya, when he narrates, he doesn't know that there is deeper things that are coming out. A case that may have been built not on evidence, but on a violence and promises of cash. And one needs to ask themselves, why would a father invent this on camera for the world to see? What does he gain? And why do these allegations align so precisely with the defense narrative that the accused were tortured, coached, and broken? Why would that even make it together? This is why the Senzo Meyiwa trial is not just about who pulled the trigger. It is about how far the state went to find a story and whether in doing so, it crossed lines so serious that the entire prosecution collapses under its own weight. Because now, when you listen, you need to go and listen to that video of Muzi's father. Then you will realize it was done in 2020, I think. And then you will realize, no, man, if this man is telling this story like this, you will go and connect the dots yourself with the evidence that came through the courtroom. You will go and connect those dots and you will be surprised. You'll be like, oh, Haibo, Kosiam. And what we dealt with was Ubabu Sbiya, the father of Moses Sbiya. A father cried. A son came home injured. A confession was allegedly brought. And South Africa is left with one terrifying question. If this is how the truth was obtained, can it ever be trusted? Because they are saying this is the truth. Fine. The truth that they say is the one, these guys are the ones that shot and killed Senzo. Then how are we supposed to trust this if there is a story of a Muzi Sbiya who was taken? Also, that part alone is very questionable. Why would you take a Muzi Sbiya to Emahlabathini in KZN drive 8 hours to there so that you can get it. They claim they went for an address, but Muzi never gave them the address. He gave them a Tembisa address. And funny enough, now we even have Mpumalanga addresses. We have, but the one that they said they went to check is not there on the charts. It's not there. And they are forcing people to believe that that was the case. What are your thoughts when it comes to that story? What do you think? Let's talk in the comment section. I want to hear your views. Thank you so much. I will see you on our next video. Bye-bye.